everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of 2P
Podcast.
Yes. I'm Shubhangi.
I am Naina.
And today we're back with stories of
Appellation
yes. And we're focusing on
411 missing cases.
yes. Again, Naina is going forward with the research, so I'm in the dark today. Let's see if I know about the cases and how much if I do know about the cases.
So let's begin.
Yes. So without further ado, let's start.
It's the summer of 1969 and you're hiking with your cousins and all of you decide to play a game of hide and seek, only to be never seen again. This is one of the many stories of the missing cases of the Appalachians. Okay, so this is June 14 of 1969, which began as a normal day for the Martin family. They were camping in the Spence Field area of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a scenic stretch known for its lush forests and panoramic views. Dennis, a bright and energetic boy, was playing hide and seek with his older brother, and a group of other children where all the kids split up to sneak around the bushes and jump out to scare the dogs. But Dennis never jumped. Within minutes, he was gone.
Wow, okay. That was an intense start. Like, are we talking about only one person? Dennis was going missing here right now.
Yes, just just a 6-year-old who went missing while playing around with his cousins. Just one little
It's
kid.
tiny.
He's very tiny. So his father searched immediately, calling his name into the trees. Within hours, park rangers and volunteers were combing the area. Over the next few days, the search escalated into one of the largest in the park's history, involving thousands of people, bloodhounds, helicopters, and even the US Army Special Forces. Despite this massive effort, not a single trace of Dennis Martin was ever found. No footprints, no clothing, no remains, nothing. So this needs to be noted, and there's some mention about after this cases that right after he went missing, there was this huge rainstorm. Okay, so basically when it happened, so they had to stop searching for him. And right after that, well, after the rainstorm was the one, after that rainstorm, the authorities were called. So basically within that time frame, any evidence of where he was would have just washed away. And if he was in the rains, then again, anything would have happened.
Exactly, like given the fact that this is the wild and it's
Yes.
a 6-year-old, people are basically looking for not a kid but whatever remains of it, perhaps.
Exactly. And if he was stuck somewhere, anywhere, maybe they would have reached him, but the rains just made everything worse.
Right, escalated the situation because there was no trace of him anymore. Even if it would have been there after the rain, there's hardly any possibility.
Exactly.
Worse is the situation though.
As the search dragged on, odd reports began to surface. Around the same time Dennis vanished, a family hiking another part of the park claimed to have heard a blood-curdling scream echoing through the woods. Moments later, they reportedly saw a rough-looking man hiding among the trees that was dirty, disheveled, and almost feral in appearance. Others began to whisper about strange figures living deep in the Smokies.
So they saw a man?
Yes, there are reports that they saw a man coming out of the woods, basically at the same time when he went missing on where he was camping. So basically the area where both the families were camping were really close. So they are thinking that maybe the man got Dennis, and just went on one different.
What about the street? Was it near the area that they were camping again? So a lot of things happening
simultaneously. So if he was kidnapped by someone, and the rains happened right after that, so it was basically a cover.
Yeah, basically provided cover for the crime.
Exactly. So others began to...
makes me think, why? It's cute.
It's okay. People who had gone off-grid and turned wild, attacking anyone who got the glimpse. Then there were cryptid theories. The Great Smoky Mountains have long been the setting of folklore about strange creatures with Bigfoot sightings, mysterious howls, and airy lights. Some believe Dennis was a victim to something far more sinister than a simple abduction. As the search intensified, even the FBI became involved, which was unusual for a missing child case, in a national park at the same time. Reports indicated the FBI was particularly interested in the sighting of the wild man. Strangely, after a few weeks, the official search was scaled back, and the case was quietly closed. But why did the trail go completely cold despite such a massive search effort? Some speculate the authorities know way more than they are saying.
Well, that's a terrible day for one to be and one go missing because you'd never want the case to go cold.
Right, exactly. And there were also reports saying that the kid at that time was autistic, so obviously they did not have a word for autism in that time.
Yeah, even if they had the word, there was not much awareness associated with it. So they'd just be like, oh my god, my kid is a bit different.
Yes, he was considered very different from the kids of his other age, which created more panic among his parents that he may not be able to do the same things that normal kids would be.
Yeah, exactly. Or seek the same resources or help or cry out for, somebody to reach out for him, even if he saw them.
Exactly.
That's sad.
That's really sad. This has led many to speculate on some of the more outlandish theories involving the disappearance. Was he abducted by a wild man living in the forest? Locals have long whispered about hermits and feral people living deep in the Smokies. Did one of those Nash dens? More than 50 years later, visitors still leave flowers and toys at the site where Dennis vanished. A silent tribute to a boy whose fate remains unknown. And every year, new hikers swear they hear things in the woods that they can't explain.
That's messed up.
Screams, footsteps, and sometimes feel like there's something watching. What happened to Dennis? Was he abducted by a wild man? Or feral people hiding bullets? Was it a cryptic attack? Or some kind of government cover? Or was it simply a trap?
Whenever somebody mentions government cover up, it gets me so bad.
Like, to be honest, is it more of a, you never know what it is. It's a theory,
Exactly.
is it true?
Like
You never know.
we never know what the truth was, what happened to Dennis. It's just that a series of misfortunes that led to a greater mishap and a
Right.
story that is forever unfinished.
Exactly.
And all people can do is just recount the fact that it happened.
The fact that they did not find his remains, nothing. Like, it's just, he vanished from
Right.
the face of the earth. So that was what is, more. To be honest, I think his parents would have never found closure.
Exactly. That's
they
one
were-
of the sadder aspects. They'd never find a closure, get to know what happened with their child.
Like, it is always will be like, mystery and a hope that maybe someday he'll turn
Perhaps
up.
he'd turn up.
And I think that's a really sad way
That's
to
worse
live.
than a punishment
Right.
because you never know what to expect.
Right, exactly. So, it's really, really sad, to be honest. And, well, in this case, many people like to speculate that there are other forces at play. You know,
Yeah.
and this area, to be honest, a lot of people who live in that area or been to that area have mentioned that the kind of growth and intense play Smokies is, it's not recommended for you to let your kids play like that.
Absolutely. Like for somebody to go camping, I understand that there's like 5,000 games to play, but then again, like letting them play something like hide and seek always gets me really mad.
Right.
Because hiding in a place that you do not know, you never know what will happen and where you will go.
Like, you never know how will you even search for them, right? Like, how will you look for them if you don't know where they're hiding?
And then when you're against forces that know, even forces or people that know the ins and outs of the area, it is such,
like, to be honest, nothing. You don't even have to consider people. Just consider the forces of nature.
even wild animals that
Right,
might be
exactly.
inhabiting the place.
Like, you're a 6-year-old, and then there's this wild creature that you come out
Anything
of
is like a
absolutely
bigger,
nowhere.
anything is like a bigger force against when you're like a 6-year-old. Anything can be harmed.
And the fact that you just, you people let their kids roam around like that, it kind of just gets you. And then this is not a place where you let your kids roam wild and do whatever they want.
Yeah, perhaps they did not intend it. Obviously,
Obviously,
nobody
it's not
intends
intended, but
Like,
their kids living kids.
Exactly. It's just another thing that led to yet another thing, and the thing was never resolved.
Right. It was sad.
It's a haunting sort of a story, and it gets you every time whenever you're outside. I wonder how many people have been
Right.
lost to this place.
Exactly. And, like they mentioned that they went to the site, people leave, flowers and memorials. Like, you never know what happened.
Okay, that I believe was like somewhere around at the first one.
Right.
So let's bring them back to the introduction for a bit. We said like this is 411 missing, but
right.
what about the people who do not know what is 411 missing?
411 Missing is basically a set of stories that have been in and around the Appalachians, considering of hikers and other people who have actually gone missing. So it's basically a collection of stories. So every story, many can have decent information. Some they don't. Like
A lot
some
of them.
right. A lot of them don't have this natural explanation of what may have happened. The most like Dennis's case, like there's absolutely no information. Was he abducted? Was what happened to him? No one. It's just that they know that they just vanished from this day.
He
The
was
rest-
there and then he wasn't.
Exactly. The rest of them is just speculation at best. So that's what the entire mystery surrounding the case is. It's like just like complete speculation. Now, I think all of the 4-1 cases are very similar. No one knows what happened to those people. Many of them, there are no remains of them.
They just vanished.
They just vanished, right? And others, when even if remains are found, people are confused, like, this could have
What-
happened,
yeah,
or
what
how
could
did
have
it happen? So, like,
So
it's
the
just
reason
question marks
behind
and question marks, yes. It's basically a case filled with question marks and absolutely no answers. No answers for the people who are researching, and no answers for the families of the victims overall. So it's basically no closure whatsoever. Which is why these cases have gained so much fame, because again, no one knows what exactly happened. I think it's a mystery aspect which draws more people in every year.
Sure. And the fact that like people still keep going missing in Appalachia.
Exactly. People still go missing. There are even recent cases of people going missing. Absolutely. No one finding out what happened.
And there happen to be like particular trails that people are like, if you're on this trail, you better be careful because
Right,
here the amount of people that go missing every year is like quite significant or something to consider.
Right.
Whenever we're talking about 411 missing, it essentially is a collection of these cases.
Right.
Some are solved, some are unsolved. Sometimes people are found alive, sometimes they are not found at all. And that is what keeps us
Intrigued.
intrigued. Yeah.
Right.
And there have been so many people who have been actively researching up 411 cases, compiling them, looking into like the historical aspects of things as to the things that have happened in the past, and trying to see if there is a pattern, if there is something that can be brought to notice, or what is one common factor that causes something to be so recurring over so many decades.
Okay, so this is the second story, and this is equally sad, to be honest. And
why did you pick up all the sad ones?
Because these are the only kind of, like, if you read through the 415, you realize most of the stories are very similar. They're really sad. You feel really sad for the victim and their families, because, you know, like, this story specifically, you will actually really relate to the person. You will really feel sad because the way. I will not give you spoilers. Let's just go.
No, I don't want to cry.
Let's just go.
What have you done, Nana? Why are you all giving me heartbreak? My God. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Bring it on. I'm trying to prepare my heart of steel for this one.
Let's go. Geraldine had left home with a friend to hike the 2,000 plus mile Appalachian Trail, and her husband would meet them at arranged spots throughout the journey with supplies. When her friend had to leave due to a family emergency, Geraldine continued on alone. She left the trail at some point and became disoriented. When she failed to meet her husband, he reported her missing. Her body was found over 2 years later in her makeshift camp. Knowing she would likely not survive, she had left a note with instructions on whoever found her body. She also left a journal detailing her journey and her concerns. She was afraid of being alone and prone to anxiety. A 66-year-old woman with a poor sense of direction, hiking the Appalachian Trail by herself, who wandered into the terrain so wild it is used for military training. She waited nearly a month in the Maine woods for help that never came. Geraldine A. Large chronicled her journey in a black-covered notebook that summer of 2013, and she kept writing after she lost her way, even as her food supply dwindled along with her hopes of being found. Her last entry reflected a strikingly graceful acceptance of what was coming. Thank God. When you find my body, please call my husband George and my daughter Carrie, she wrote. It will be the greatest kindness for them to know that I'm dead and where you found me, no matter how many years from now. It would be 2 years before a logging company surveyor stumbled upon her campsite and the remains, solving a mystery that tormented her family and defied terms of experienced searchers. Miss Large, a retired nurse from Tennessee, had survived nearly a month on her own, longer than any other backwoods hands thought possible, before dying of exposure and starvation.
I'm not letting you pick the stories next time. Like, she was a nurse. She had lived a lot of her life serving others.
Yes.
She was alive for a month. She was journaling her experiences, telling people what to do.
It's sad.
It's heartbreaking. Like, the searches.
Like, to be honest, the worst part is her accepting the fact that she may not survive.
Yeah, and that she might not be found again.
Exactly. She knew that she was about to, die. Maybe the next day or maybe the next few hours. And
even in those moments, she was like, if you get closure from her family.
Exactly. She was thinking about the family and even in those last moments. It's kind of scary to think that she was all alone.
Yeah, absolutely. When she was like anxious about it.
Right. She was all alone in the middle of nowhere. Nothing in front of sight. No one coming to save her. I think I just feel bad how hopeless it must have felt, within that few months. And it's just very, very sad. And I hope no one has to go through this kind of situation.
Absolutely.
It's sad. On Thursday, the Maine Warden Service released more than 1,500 pages of its files on her disappearance, shedding light on the fears of her friends and her family, and the search that pursued countless false leads, the documents including brief excerpts from her journal, and the plaintive text messages she tried in vain to send to her husband from a place beyond the reach of cell towers. Lost since yesterday, she texted. Off trial 3 or 4 miles. Call police for what to do, please. In fact, she had set up camp less than 2 miles off the field. There with her black tent and her possessions neatly sorted into Ziploc bags, she penned a note to her husband on the cover of the journal. George, please read XOXO.
You don't have to do this to me. You should not be doing this to me. You're reading quotes from the journal after breaking my heart. Dude, she's not picking up stories anymore. I do not have the emotional capability to be processing this right now.
The fact, I think later on in the story you'll find out that she was not that far from where she was having found.
And it's not only that, the fact that she, she kept on trying to reach out.
Right.
Like, sending messages, keeping the journal, writing letters,
even texting, maybe some self-service, maybe they'll be able to find out where she was. It's just
Like imagine during the time that people were searching, not once did she have enough service
right,
for her
exactly.
messages to go through.
Right.
That kind of seems cruel. You know,
Isn't
isn't
it
it
like
cruel?
everything right? Like it seemed like fate, destiny, whatever it was totally against her. Like
Yeah,
whatever the forces were, they wanted her there, stuck in that place.
And wanted it to be all for
Yes.
her then and there.
Then and there. And
That's very cruel.
cool, really cool.
And like really really sad of a way for things to end, because
Mm.
you know, like we often say that hope is the driver to, you know, like
Right.
something better or some sort of a change. And now we're seeing for somebody to be accepting. Imagine the amount of hopelessness that they've had for them to
Like,
make peace with it.
like a month of waiting, a month of trying, a month of documenting.
And
whatever
imagine
was
the amount of
happening.
courage that they had to
Right,
keep going for a month and not
exactly.
succumb to it. Like
Right. That
any
was a
and all
huge lot of
resources.
hope that she
Yeah,
carried,
literally.
and which was
It's just that the times were against her.
exactly. Miss Largay had adopted the trail name Inchworm, making light of her case, but that place had taken her nearly 1,000 miles from Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, where she and her friend Jane Lee had set off in April 23rd, 2013. Her husband of 42 years, George Largay, drove ahead and met them in pre-arranged spots with supplies. Sometimes took them to motels for showers and a night indoors. On June 30th, in New Hampshire, Miss Lee cut her hike short to tend to a family emergency, but Miss Largay insisted on continuing.
So imagine this was not like a first time thing.
No, it was not the first time. She had hiked before, she knew hiking, and
It was just the times then.
it was just a times. Later, Miss Lee would tell an investigator that Geraldine had a poor sense of direction. The Warden Service investigation report said Miss Lee said that Geraldine had taken a wrong turn on the trail more than once, and Miss Largay became flustered and combative when she made these kind of mistakes. Miss Largay made friends easily on the trail, but she feared the dark and being alone, said Miss Lee, who told park wardens that George did not know the extent of Geraldine's inability to deal with rigors and challenges of the trail. But after he reported his wife missing, Mr. Largay told an investigator that Gary was probably in over her head.
Absolutely. For somebody to be scared of the dark and to be surviving a month in the forest alone.
To be honest, they're like mixed. The entire thing is really mixed. One thing is certain that she had anxiety issues. Okay, that's completely certain. But then again, they are
Also
saying
poor
that,
sense of
right,
direction.
like some people are saying that her family is saying that no, she does not have it. Her friend is saying that I have been with her and I've seen her in the trial first time.
Right, yeah.
So she's like, no, she does have a poor sense of direction. So like, we never know. Maybe she did. Maybe she did not. Maybe she made a mistake on the trail, which got her
Correct.
off trail. So we never exactly know what happened.
And it's always the trails in Appalachia. Like
Right.
there's certain trails like people will be like, I lost a sense of direction and I got lost.
Right.
Only for them to never be found again.
Right. Exactly.
There's certain trails. We'll come back to a focus on those trails and talk about them more when we discuss other cases. But yeah, it's always those trails, along those trails and on the side of those trails, and people getting lost
Right, a
in
lot.
vicinity of the same.
Hmm.
Like whenever you're trekking or hiking across Appalachia, there are certain trails that people are always asked to be mindful of. So
And
in,
right.
in these cases, like
Yeah.
even when she's like supposed to meet her husband,
Mm-hmm.
but the fact that she was moving up ahead the trail
Hmm.
alone for a bit in itself was like something kind of that could have been avoided.
Like, exactly.
Should
that
have been
part
avoided.
Should have been avoided. Right. I think she thought that she will not be alone. She will find other hikers where she will talk to.
Absolutely,
And
that is
things
how
like that.
it.
Like that's how usually hiking works. And solo hiking has always been a thing.
Yes.
Everyone has done that. Everyone has liked doing that. Like alone time with
And like
nature.
they say, like she was easy.
She loved making friends. So
Making friends. So that will be
But
like an
again,
opportunity.
we need to keep in mind that this is one of the most hardest trails out there, where military trainings are done.
Sure.
So this is not an easy trail. This is not for beginners, right? So this
Perhaps
has to be,
they did not consider all of that. They were just like, we want to hike.
Right, and maybe
Just
she
for-
already had experience hiking, so she probably thought like, okay, I have
Just
experience
another
hiking,
trail
right?
along
We
there.
can do this. So
If for somebody who might be, for the two of us who might be planning hiking and training in future,
this,
we're
This is
gonna
our
we're gonna
first.
travel in groups. So there's it's
Not-
giving me the spooks.
right, exactly, never alone. Her doctor would tell investigators that once she ran out of the medication she took for anxiety, she could suffer panic attacks. Miss Largay spent the night of July 21, 22 in the Poplar Ridge lean-to in the Western Lane, less than 200 miles from the end of the trail. Her smile was so infectious that before he set off the next morning, a fellow hiker, Dottie Ross, asked to take a picture. In the photo, she's beaming and wearing a backpack. Her socks pulled high, as hikers will do to ward off scraps and blisters. It was about 6:30 a.m., the last time anyone has known to see her alive. By 11 a.m., she was lost.
Nana, you're not choosing stories again. You're picking up details like somebody took her last picture while
We have that picture, we can add it. We will add it, don't worry, we'll add that picture.
This is why she should not be in charge of picking stories. She now has pictures. Okay, yes, please do add the pictures. Yes, people should be seeing this amazing person that was lost to a trail and an unfortunate event. However, I believe that she was also quite brave to, have been there and put herself together to the point where she was able to document even the last of her times. So, yeah.
In some trouble, Miss Lardy wrote in a text message to her husband. Got a trail to go. I think BR is written. I think it means bathroom, basically. Now lost. She asked.
Perhaps the location where they were supposed to meet.
Right, like I think she was in trail and she wanted to, take tea or just go somewhere else to take tea. And she just went off trail for like maybe few feet, right? And just to relieve herself. And by the time she looked back,
she was just lost.
She was just lost.
Even on
she could not find back.
When you see a lot of trees,
right, like to be honest,
it's kind of disorienting.
Right, exactly. It is disorienting because you feel like everything looks similar, and you never, especially when we go to some blocks, any complex that have the same kind of building all over. Without markers, we would think that everything is same. It is really bad or worse when you're doing that in a forest. Right?
Somebody who's as terrible in directions, like without anything.
Exactly.
It would be a nightmare because, I often say that I was there or I was here. This time when I was talking about the same place where we last went, and we left in the later evening. The second day on our tour, we decided to hike up a trail to see it was a sunset or a sunrise point. And we left with a seasoned guide. But somehow during the way, somewhere we were lost and we had missed a marker. Yeah. And we saw people coming down from the same spot. But we couldn't reach. By the end of half of the trail, we had accepted the fact that we were lost. So we just decided to go down the hill. And we had diverted from our source of trails and we just decided to go down the hill because in a distance we could see there was a sort of I believe it was a temple, and we saw the structure at the top of a temple, like a diamond-shaped top, and we were like, that is either a house or a temple, so let's walk towards it. Right. And even our guide had given up on the fact, and he had accepted the fact that he had actually lost the trail. And
so that's scary.
We did not realize it, our guide never told us that we were lost. He just tried to navigate and find his way back because he was a native of the place.
Right.
So,
that is the only good thing.
Yeah, and when we saw the temple from up there and we were we're too tired to continue, he was just okay, let's continue towards the temple. And when we did, he met people there who he knew. And it is then that he told us actually we got off trail and we lost our track. It's just that since we could see the temple from there, I just decided to go back. And I was thank you for doing that. Had we known that we're actually lost, we would have absolutely lost our track.
You would have freaked out. I think he was very, seasoned, to be honest.
True.
He is very seasoned how to handle the situation and get you back to safety.
The only thing that allowed me to go through was the fact that one of the reasons as to why I kept continuing because it was very steep and we did not have gear. We were just under the assumption that it's going to be a very short
simple walk.
Exactly. We were hiking up a very what can I say? A lower kind of a slope. So I did not think that we'd have to go that. But while descending, we realized that it was so steep that I had to literally hold up plants around. There were sticks lying around and we were using those to get down.
Right. And that's insanely steep.
Yeah, it was insanely steep. For somebody who was seasoned, that was wrong. But for me, one wrong step and I could go tumbling down and reach the mountain in a couple of minutes instead of
and broken bones.
Tons of them. I kid you not, I literally, when we got back to our place, when we got a vehicle to come back to our stay, my feet were hurting like anything. They were swollen, they were bleeding, and I was like, okay, perhaps hiking is not for me when it is that steep without support and no maps. Me and my playlist against the world.
I have done trekking. But the thing is,
the good kind, not like mine, not like yours.
And we did not go off trail because the trail was literally, to be honest, it was a very simple trail. It was huge. It was kind of at a height, but it was not something very particularly difficult. I guess for a 13-14-year-old who has high energy, it was probably not difficult.
Okay.
So it was good. So it was good trail, and we came back. It was trail was huge. Okay, trail was huge. It was really light and everything. So. Again, we had 2 to 3 guides and huge set of people going. So all of them was in our favor. So it was very simple, sweet to undertaking.
I'm happy that you had that experience because I kid you not, I remember there was a moment when our guide was showing us look at this scenery and he had removed a branch. And I being me, I did not realize that he was holding back the branch. I was like, you go ahead, I'll follow. He left the branch and it came like this and I ducked. I was like, had I not ducked, it would have hit me on the face. And I was like, okay, I ducked from underneath the branch, and the guide was like, if you keep doing that, you'll get lost, so move up ahead. And I'm the last person who should be moving up ahead, because then I found spots that I could step on, but I am tiny in stature. And people around were taller than me. So they were like, Shubhangi, you're finding corners that is hard to, like walk through open space. And then I started walking through open space only to realize that the shrubs here were shorter, but the trail here was steeper. And I was like, okay, I should be somewhere in the middle of the trail, so I'm not going to lead you guys.
Like that.
Sometimes I wonder if I was the one who led them off trail. I do not know.
I remember, I was actually, with the speed at which I was walking, I was literally urging my parents, like, come fast, come fast, come fast, come fast.
That's always us with the parents.
Right.
Why are you there?
Right.
Come with me.
Like, I was literally kid, I was literally half running with them.
Also, half the age that we currently are.
Right, exactly. So I was like, high energy, and I really wanted to go and visit this place. It was literally in the middle of the forest. So
it's kind of fun with kids that way sometimes.
Exactly.
Like, they're always there to boost you. Like, I can do it, you can do it too. Come join me.
I was like, and then my parents later, they were like, what, like, the entire uphill
What did you have this morning? How are you so energetic?
Exactly. I was energetic even to the end of the day. Okay? My parents
were running on adrenaline. Enjoy. Loads of joy.
I had been, like, begging my dad to take me there, and finally he did. So it's like
that's reasonable. Like, no slowing you down.
Yeah, okay.
Coming back to the story, because Nana has given me enough of heartbreak, so I needed that respite.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, the text message that she wrote to her husband was got off trail to go to the bathroom, now lost. She asked him to call the Appalachian Mountain Club to see if a trail maintainer can help me, somewhere north of Woodsville, XOX. The message was never received. Miss Largay had left the trail in one of its most rugged sections, with thick underbush and fir trees packed so tightly that they almost seemed to merge. You step off the trail 20 or 30 feet and turn around, it's very difficult to see where the trail was. Says Douglas Dolan, 53, a volunteer who spent time last summer doing trail maintenance in the area.
That makes sense.
That really makes sense. If you didn't know which way the trail was, you could easily walk in circles for hours.
So she essentially did not even have to be somebody who, like, missed directions easily.
Right.
The situations did not align in her favor at all.
Exactly. Like, it's just like what happened with her, no? You'd think that you're going to take quick respite, like just a 2 minutes break.
Yeah.
And you just turn.
And then you're gone.
Like, the trail is gone.
Exactly.
Us is gone. Like, the trail vanished, and you never know how to get back.
It was right here until it wasn't.
Exactly.
And then it's not there anymore.
If you didn't know which way the trail was, you could easily walk in circle for hours. Miss Largay sought high ground, possibly hoping for a signal strength. She tried over and over to send messages, but none went through. On July 23rd, she set up camp, laying her tent atop sticks and pine needles under a canopy of hemlocks that probably obscured her from airborne rescuers. She tied a shiny silver blanket between two trees, possibly to attract attention, and nearby trees had burn marks. It looks like some sort of fire was attempted on those trees by Kevin, wrote Lieutenant Kevin Adams of the Warden Service in the report. She was supposed to meet Mr. Largay on July 23rd at Route 27 in Wayman Township. The next day, he reported her missing.
She did not go down easy. Like, she tried each and everything that she could.
But the thing was, like, at this point, the forces of nature were against her completely. Like, the place where she was staying was completely under forest and canopy, so there was no way that no one from top could see her. Underneath, like,
a lot of things against her.
Like, even, can you imagine, like, this is a thick, dense under, like, trees and everything. If you're standing on that end, you are here, and the middle of the trees are here.
We never know if somebody was, like, around her.
Exactly.
Like, when they were looking for her, they could have just been around her, but not able to see.
Exactly. Multiple agencies and volunteers joined the hunt, with searchers on foot, on horseback, and in helicopters. She was less than a mile from the trail, close enough that searchers probably passed her, passed near her without realizing. So basically, they may have been, like, just a foot away, and they never realized that she was just there.
Yeah, you do not need one heartbreak.
Investigators questioned hikers who might have crossed paths with Miss Largay, and they tested the DNA on a discarded band-aid. And they were inundated with false tips to be questioned. People suggested that she had been murdered, that she might be lodged in treetops, that she had fallen in the river, that she had been spotted at a woman's shelter in Tennessee. Some hikers thought they might have seen her on the trail, but they weren't sure. Others had seen sketchy men whom they thought might have done her harm. Psychics called to report visions of her, including one who insisted incorrectly that she had broken her ankle. Search efforts were scaled back on August 4th. Miss Largay kept writing daily observations and letters to her family in a journal until August 10, even drawing out a calendar to keep track of the days. She wrote a final entry that she dated August 18, though investigators are not sure the date is accurate. Her remains were found on October 14, 2015, inside her sleeping bag in a campsite she had kept neat until the very day. Around her was ample gear she had worn. Items like a blue-white bandana, a rosary, birthday candles, lighters, dental floss, a sewing kit, and 2 water bottles, one still containing water. When Miss Largay's family visited the patch of woodlands 2 weeks later, they left a white wooden cross decorated with messages etched in black mark. One written in a child's hand said, "I wish you were here."
You're not choosing these stories again. You pick up the most hard to digest parts and you place them in front. It's really, really sad.
It's
Like,
really
even
sad.
on
No,
that side.
what's even worse is that they could have just simply missed her. Nothing. They could have just simply missed her and she was just right there. Like, the forces of nature, like when the forces of nature are playing and you will never win. Like, forces of nature will always have an upper hand on whatever humans are doing. Like, no matter what. Like, maybe they could have just found her one step away. There were even reports that if she had just moved up from where she was, from the camp that she had set up, if she had walked a few miles, from where she was, she would have reached a river where they would have easily been able to spot her.
It's not only that, imagine,
And also, the fact that she was just 2 miles away from finishing the trail. Like, she was just 2 miles away from the finish line, right? So, like, it was just there. It was just sitting and waiting there. Like,
it's just that, like, even she did not know that, if she was moving towards the trail or away from it.
right,
In
exactly.
her mind, it was like, if I probably stay here, people will find me.
Right.
Instead of me loitering around and moving farther inside.
Exactly.
Or perhaps getting away from the trail.
Right, exactly. And also, like, did you notice that they said that her container still had water?
Yeah.
So it was probably starvation or food, like, no food. Or maybe just the forces of nature had. Like, you never know.
Yeah, they said she died of exposure. That's such a wide window to be staying under.
Like, you
There's
never know
so
what
much.
happened.
Yeah, exactly.
They just hope that, in the last moment she found peace, that's all.
Not only that, at least the family got closure and they got to know, and like even like somewhere down the line she'd be able to know that okay, fine, they know now it's time.
I think she will be at peace knowing that her husband and her daughter.
Yeah, it's not them.
They know that
hiding.
what happened, and they have information of who she was, and they
and they found the journal.
They found the journal. They found her basically, even though it was not in the condition that they were supposed to, but she had accepted the fact, right? So she was. I think she was at peace knowing that her family had finally found it.
Yeah, even if it took 2 years,
Yeah,
that's better than
Nothing.
Dennis's case. Yeah, because
I think yes, it's better than Dennis' case considering that at least the family got closure.
Yeah.
But again,
in Dennis's case, he was too young,
he's
gone
too
so
young.
easily, and
Right. And absolutely no trace.
yeah,
like,
and since there is no trace, there's always the question of was he taken? Did he get lost? Did he
Right.
get hurt? Did he
What
simply
happened?
did he simply get misplaced?
right. Or was it other forces at play?
Yeah, he was like simply at the wrong place at the wrong time. What was
that? Like, a lot of questions for the answers.
Yeah, sweet. Okay, this was less spooks and more heartbreak.
Right, exactly. Because most of these cases are more about the heartbreak aspect, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's never easy to, see somebody just be gone because you'd
Right.
expect them to be there and then they are not.
Right. Like, I think losing someone by, like
Do
lost,
something hard.
right. Being lost and then losing someone is more heartbreaking because, like, they were here with you completely healthy and fine, and the next moment they're not.
They're not.
So, that is
It's like a glaring gap out there
Right,
because
exactly.
when people are sick, perhaps they have enough time to bid their goodbyes. Here, none of them had that. Despite Geraldine, like writing in her journal, she was going around with it. Like, this is what I should be doing or keeping track of.
Right.
Perhaps she even had hope that I will get rescued.
Someday.
I will,
Right, yeah.
someday. Yeah, that is one aspect. Like, to be that optimistic that even if it is not me and not me reaching out immediately, someday somebody would find
Somebody
it
find
and
it.
then you let them know.
Exactly.
That's her being patient and
Right.
extremely kind to the fact that okay, fine.
She's patient, she's hopeful.
Literally
And
strong out there,
resilience,
keeping a very strong mindset of the fact that okay, fine. Maybe someday, maybe not.
Right, exactly. Okay, so this was
That was sad.
very sad episode that happened, but
You better warn me the next time you do 411.
I will.
My God.
Okay, so that's all for
Yes, that's all for episode 5. We're hoping that episode 6 will be more spooky and less heartbreaking. And I don't know.
But yes, she's still unsure. But
Yes.
do send your stories if you have any to our email that's
Yeah.
there in the description.
We have received like some stories about different factors people have been sharing very frequently. We'll be waiting so that there's enough stories to compile, and then we'll be progressing with sharing your stories and sharing our opinions and expressions and getting to know more about what you have to tell us.
Exactly.
So up until the next time, see you on the next one day with something new. Up until then, comment what are your thoughts about the case that you heard about today. Have you ever heard of people who've gone missing? In those aspects, what do you have to say? And if you do not want to like talk a lot about that, leave us some flowers in the comments. Make me feel a little bit better. Leave some flowers in the comments because we've been sad enough for today. See you next Monday. Bye bye. Take care.